Welcome, everyone. You're now going to start the Mindful Eating webinar. Thank you for setting aside the time for this webinar. You're going to walk away with a changed mindset and very valuable tools. The webinar should take about 45 minutes, and we'll go through a sample recipe prep and do some goal setting at the end. And be sure to stay with me until the end for your free gifts. Our objectives today are to identify the principles of mindful eating. We're going to learn about the differences between mindful eating and mindless eating. Then we'll identify the behaviors that support mindful eating and learn 7 strategies for mindful eating, understand the importance of cooking in connection with food, and put this all together so that you have a plan. Let's talk about food decisions. How many food decisions do you make every day? Just breakfast can be about 30 choices. Eggs, how many? How are they being prepared? Is there oil in the pan? Are they whole eggs or just the egg whites? Is there seasoning? Did you add anything to the eggs like cheese or veggies or condiments? Are you going to have some fruit? What kind of fruit? How much? Did you add anything to the fruit? Fresh, canned, frozen? Toast. What kind of toast? White, whole wheat, rye, sourdough, gluten-free? You're starting to get the idea of how many decisions come along with every time that you eat. Also, you need to take a look at where you're eating, what time of day you're eating, what you're doing while you're eating. This is just one example of one meal and how difficult it can be to implement mindful eating practices. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Research has shown that by being more attentive to your food choices, that sustainable healthy weight maintenance can be achieved without counting calories. Of course, it's also important to make sure that what you're putting in your body is healthy. We can help you with that also. There'll be more resources for that at the end of this webinar. Core principles of mindful eating. Unlike sleeping and breathing, eating requires some deliberate engagement on your part. We need to make decisions on what we gather and what we shop for and what we select. The core principles of mindful eating are to be aware of the nourishment available through the process of food prep and consumption, to select enjoyable and nutritious foods, acknowledging food preferences non-judgmentally or emotionally, to recognize and honor physical hunger and satiety cues, and to use wisdom to guide eating decisions. Since most people eat for reasons other than physical hunger, the first question of why do I eat is often central to ultimately changing behavior. Why do I eat? Let's explore some triggers. They can be because of physical hunger, because of challenging situations, because of a visual cue, or it could arise from stress or fatigue or boredom. Also, when do you want to eat? Is that dependent on the clock or on your physical hunger cues or on your emotions? How about what do you eat? Factors to consider when choosing foods are things like convenience, taste, comfort, nutrition. How do you eat? Does being plugged into technology interrupt eating times? Are you eating on the go? And how much do you eat? Do you make this decision based on physical fullness cues, on the package size? There's always that once I open the bag of chips, I'm going to eat the whole thing problem. Maybe pure influence, or maybe you're just eating out of habit. And then where does the energy go? Eating may be invigorating, or it may cause sluggishness or lead to guilt or shame. This whole cycle you can't avoid. So let's learn how to step through the cycle mindfully. First, let's determine what mindless eating is. We're going to work backwards and find out why it's so hard to be a mindful eater. Food is ubiquitous. It's everywhere, including media, which prompts you to eat things you probably shouldn't have. Also, eating is automatic. You're not checking in with hunger cues, and you're just eating out of habit. Eating can be emotional, and it's often tied to your self-worth and to your mood. You may be eating quick and unhealthy because of lack of planning. And sometimes it's just that you don't know what you don't know. So a lack of knowledge is the problem. Mindless eating is looking at environmental cues and triggers around eating. Some of these may be eating on the run or eating in the car or eating while distracted while you're on your phone or watching TV or on the computer. Or maybe your trigger is eating from a large plate. You're going to a buffet. The mindful eating concept involves making adjustments to avoid all of those triggers that may compel you to eat unhealthy foods or to eat too much or both. Take a moment now. Can you think of some strategies that would help avoid the triggers we just talked about and overcome some of those barriers to being a mindful eater? One of the most common ones is around technology or media. And so simply put the phone down, shut the TV off. Sit down when you're eating. Eat off a smaller plate. Avoid electronics. Stock your environment with healthier food choices and avoid shopping when you're hungry. We all hear all of these tricks and tips. Now is time to implement them. And we're going to help teach you how to do that also. Finding balance. Sustaining eating healthy habits happens when we find balance. That's when it becomes a habit and that's when it's more enjoyable and easier. At the Holistic Initiative, we often see patients who have been through multiple different diets, every fad out there, and then it never lasts. Is that you? Am I talking to you? Are you thinking through the things that you've tried in the past and then you weren't able to maintain it? Things like denying yourself food never works long term. Eating things that are drink mixes or substances that aren't actually food and you're eating those in replacement for food, that doesn't work long term either. Um, Maybe you have a lot of emotions tied with food and you've never let those go. We can help with that also. Mindful eating slows down the automatic response that can lead to feeling bad both physically and emotionally with eating. Once you work on both the physical and the emotional, you can eat mindfully and make this sustainable. One of the ways to do that is to ask yourself, do I really want this, whatever that food is? Maybe there's alternatives to what it is that you're presented with. Most people have the problem of going out socially and then they're presented with a food that everybody else is eating. You just need to make better choices. Take a moment in advance, and a lot of this has to do with planning, knowing in advance what you're going to eat so that you're not making those bad choices. Eating correctly and eating mindfully is an exercise. And exercises only work if you repeat them. So continue to practice slowing down, take some breaths, and thinking through all of the decisions on what you're going to eat. Let's always meet in the middle. So green is good if you take a look at this scale. Green is go, red is stop, red is bad. Another very effective exercise is to assign a number on the hunger scale each time you're going to eat. And after, you want to take a look at where you're at after you're eating. Ideally, you want to fall in the 4 to 6 zone. So you're beginning to feel hungry or you're satisfied, neither hungry nor full, or you're slightly full or pleasantly full. Think about now, I want you to think about in your head what a zero feels like. We don't want you to get there. What does that zero feel like? You're shaky and crabby and you feel junky. The same thing ends up happening at the other end of that spectrum, at the other end of that scale. So think about that. What does a 10 feel like? You're full and bloated and you feel sluggish and yucky. And then oftentimes the negative emotions are associated with that. What is your hunger scale right now? Just check in right now. Did you, before you watch this webinar, did you have a snack knowing that you would have to be here for about 45 minutes? Or at the end of this, are you going to be super hungry and want to overindulge? We do have a meal planning workbook that comes with this course. So hopefully you downloaded that and you have that with you. Within there, it will help you track your hunger scale. Writing this down makes a big difference so that you can self-reflect and self-modify. Another way to simply do this is by using our free app to track all of your meals, to log everything, including how you're feeling with every meal, your hunger scale, what you're eating. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the course, but it works great as a tool. Behavior change is hard, immensely hard. The bulk of what we do is to assist you in changing your behaviors. I can tell you to do something differently, but implementing that is where the magic really is. Behavior is hard to change, and a key piece of why you might be eating mindlessly. So we have to understand what that behavior is before we can change it. So, for example, if I'm craving sugar all the time, or if I'm craving eating processed foods all the time, ask yourself why. Maybe this is because there are chemicals in those foods causing a reaction within my system that makes those things that I'm ingesting become addictive. Oftentimes, when you eat things that you're not supposed to be eating, your body releases adrenaline to rid the system of them quicker. And we love adrenaline. That adrenaline is part of something that we get addicted to, and that becomes a behavior, an addictive behavior. Those are hard to change, but by being aware of them, you can then take action steps to change some of those. Some of the other reasons why it's hard to change behavior is your environment. Maybe processed food is all you have in the house, or social pressure. You're out to eat and that is what everyone else is eating. Or preparedness. So, not preparing food ahead of time or not remembering to bring it with you. Or taste. All the chemicals in the food are designed to trigger a response in them that you'll get addicted to or that you'll crave more. Another possible reason for eating mindlessly might be timing. So, are you eating late at night? Or maybe you're bored or distracted. Simply acknowledge the reasons why you engage in mindless eating, and that's the first step to becoming more mindful. This is where writing it down becomes very important. Again, using the free Healthy app, you can journal all of that using technology to make it very simple, and then you can look back on it and start to see some of those trends. We're going to get into now some of the tools that you can use. Tools are really important. We all love tools, and it takes you from point A to point B, and we want you to reach the goal of eating mindfully. So let's work on the tools to move you step by step to eating mindfully. The first tool is the hunger scale. So check in with your hunger before you eat and avoid the red zones. Be sure to log your hunger scale. If you notice you aren't in the middle ground consistently, then recognize why. Journal those reasons why. Write down where you are in your environment and what you're feeling, and then take the steps to ensure you don't get into that environment or situation again. This can be things like having a healthy snack before you go out to eat, or maybe setting a time that you're going to stop eating in the evening. But journaling that and logging that gives you the opportunity to reflect on it and to make those changes. Tool number two. Understanding the mechanisms of hunger can help you manage behavior. Here's where we get into a little bit of the science of all of this. We're going to talk about ghrelin. That's a hormone produced by the stomach and in the intestine. It's a hunger hormone released to drive eating. Next is leptin. This is a hormone produced by fat cells. It works as an appetite suppressant, and it's released to send signals to the brain that you're done, that you're full. Leptin resistance is caused by consistently eating high levels. So, people who are overweight, where the body produces a lot of leptin, but they're unable to use it, becomes a problem. But know that leptin resistance doesn't have to be a permanent state, and we can change that. The next hormone related to eating is called cholecystokinin. This is a satiety hormone released when the stomach stretches. When you overeat, you're stretching your stomach out. So portion control really is important, but eating mindfully will assist you in and using the hunger scale and determining what the correct amount is. Having really good tasting food also helps you to make better decisions. So, curbing overeating may involve shifting your mindset from eating until you're full to eating until you've had just enough. Just enough means that you've eaten the right amount to support your hunger for about 4 hours. And the more practice you have to paying attention to your body's signals, the easier it'll be to listen to your body and to distinguish its real needs. But you need to cultivate an awareness, and this is done by repetition. Another key note is sugars and artificial sweeteners and other chemicals that you ingest can trick the system. When you ingest these things, it stimulates the brain, but there's really no energy associated with what you ingested. There's no calories to it coming in that satisfy, so that can throw off those hunger cues. Um, these would be things to avoid ingesting, or at a minimum, be aware of, so that you can use another method to know when you're full. Tool number 3, tracking. As I mentioned before, we have a free healthy app to log all of your food, mood, and feelings of health. By doing this, you'll start to see trends and then you can implement change. If you struggle with this, have one of our team members review your logs, and then we can give you ideas on where you can make changes. By using the Healthy app, we can go back and take a look at your full log, and then we can online chat with you and give you some recommendations. Tool number 4, slow down. This is good advice for everything in life. Stop, smell the roses, smell the fresh herbs, and enjoy life. The majority of population eats really quickly. This is something that's just cultural at this point. Most people only spend about 11 minutes eating lunch, and that's a lot of times at a fast food restaurant, or even when you're sitting down eating, that's maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and then you're done. Our body is meant to absorb, digest, and enjoy that food over a longer period of time. Really, when you eat that quickly, otherwise, when you're eating those short amount of times, our body doesn't have the proper amount of time to get the signals. And it's not enjoyable to do it that way. So take the time to eat, set aside the time to enjoy your food. Tool number 5, give yourself at least a 30 up to a 1 minute pause before making any decision. My advice is sleep on any big decision. When we're talking about food that's a smaller decision, give yourself at least a minute. If you want, maybe go for a walk, get up, change rooms, do something a little bit different, but don't just go straight for the food and eat mindlessly. Take a moment to reflect on what you're about to do and what you're about to eat, and bring your emotions into check and move yourself to a happier place before you start eating. We don't want you to eat emotional or stressed. We want you to actually stop and realize, are you really hungry? Take a deep breath, compose your thoughts, bring yourself into the present moment. Simply observe the thoughts that pass through your mind, and now you're ready to act mindfully and make the decision on what, when, how, why, everything to eat mindfully. If you recognize that you are stress eating, how do you change that? So avoid processed foods that have a negative effect on your body and your mind. Aim for a diet that's 75% plant-based and about 25% of high-quality proteins. Reduce stress by developing a sense of community and cultivating positive interactions. And what I mean by this is hang out with the people that are also doing the same, who want to be healthy. Avoid eating around people who aren't healthy eaters and who are eating mindlessly. That's a lot about changing your environment. Community is really important to foster an overall sense of health. Surround yourself with people who are doing the same. Tool number 6, once you're aware of what your triggers are, then you have to redirect. So triggers can be internal and can be external. If the triggers are external, change your environment. Move, go for a walk, eat in a different location. An example of this is every time you sit down on the couch at night and you turn on your favorite TV show, you immediately get hungry. Just choose to sit in a different location at night. If the triggers are internal, acknowledge them and then take a few breaths before you make any decisions. That oxygen will go to your brain and allow you to slow down those automatic habitual thoughts so that you can make better decisions. Many times the triggers are actually the things that you're eating which cause inflammation in your body, and that can translate to pain, fatigue, your brain not working quite right, and I call that brain fog. And so taking the chemicals out of your body or out of your system, detoxifying your system and not putting bad stuff in will help you eat mindfully also. One of the other powerful tools that we utilize is our 28-day reset meal plan, which cleans the bad stuff out of your system, helps teach you how to eat healthy and mindfully and make better food decisions. We'll give you one of that resource as one of the freebies at the end of the webinar. So watch for that. Be sure to utilize all of the resources that we offer you so that you can be successful at making these changes. Um, we have a lot of resources available, and many times people just simply aren't utilizing them. We've developed the program so that utilizing all of the resources will help you to complete this goal of eating mindfully. Tool number 7, embrace healthy eating and manage your expectations. Um, I often say if it's not food, it's not food. So this may seem redundant, but so many people are eating things that aren't actually food. You need to have a healthy eating plate and be absorbing the nutrients that your body needs. If I, for instance, told you that something was poison, would you put it in your mouth? Would you eat it? No. But oftentimes that's what you're doing without even realizing it. Take a look at the labels on some of the things that you're eating. If it is a word that looks like a chemical, it's a chemical. That's not a food. Your food should be eaten just so that it fuels your body, nourishes your systems, prevents disease, and it really should be something that you enjoy. Tool number 8. There are a lot of common misbeliefs about healthy cooking and about cooking being easy. Some of the misconceptions are that it takes a lot of time. The most of the healthy foods that you should be eating, you don't even actually need to cook. Another misconception is that it takes skill. One of our free gifts at the end is an ebook to help you set up your kitchen to make cooking really fun with lots of fun tools. Another misconception that it's hard to make it taste good. When you eat healthy, you'll begin to taste foods more because you won't be dependent on the high amount of chemicals within the foods that aren't really foods. Your taste buds will actually enjoy real food more. And another good trick is to just use fresh herbs to expand your taste buds and to get more flavor into your food. Another really common misconception is that it's expensive. It's a lot less expensive than buying pre-made or going out to eat. And as a rule, you can always make a better meal at home than you can find out. Another misconception, it requires so many ingredients that I have to have this gourmet kitchen to be able to cook. That's not the case. And we can help with that out also. With the free ebook, we give you how to stock your refrigerator, your pantry, and your cupboards with all of the basics so that you can make all of the healthy eating recipes and you already have all of your base there. It's also important to be the gatekeeper of the kitchen in your home. Every home needs a gatekeeper. Decisions about what to eat are made mainly by the person who does the grocery shopping. So start with one meal a day. Learn a few new recipes a week. Experiment. Repeat what works. Start some cooking classes. A lot of resources are available online that you can follow along and learn how to cook. Let's take a look now at how easy this actually can be. Let's review. Grab your workbook and turn to page 5. I want you to write down one example of mindful eating. Maybe it's pausing before you eat. Or how about trying to eat with your non-dominant hand? That one's kind of fun. Or try eating with chopsticks. That one can be really entertaining too and definitely will slow down your eating. Just think of one example or utilize one of the ones that I just said, but write it down. Writing it down will make it more likely that you will actually complete it. Next, I want you to identify 2 behaviors that drive mindless eating. 2 of your behaviors. And I'm guessing that you can think about a lot of those. After I've gone through this, you've probably found many areas where you are eating mindlessly. So identify 2 of those behaviors and write them down. It's important to recognize them and then make a plan to change them. Once you've written them down, then you can logically think about what you need to do so that you don't continue with that mindless behavior. Utilize the tools that we've gone over within this webinar so that you can change those behaviors. Last piece of homework for you is I want you to list 3 strategies you're going to use for mindful eating. I'll let you think about that for just a little bit, and then I'll give you some examples. But what are 3 strategies that you can use for mindful eating that will work within your life? Hopefully, you're thinking now about all of the tools that we went over. So, things like utilizing the hunger scale, taking some deep breaths so that you slow down and make better decisions before you eat. Maybe it's redirecting, so change your environment, go for a walk. Maybe it's something like cooking your meals in advance. There are many things. I want you to, if you don't get them all done now, I want you to make sure you go back and you think about three things, at least three things, and write those down. There's so many ways, and it's important to revisit. There's so many ways to do this. It's important to revisit this workbook. My suggestion is that you stick page 5 up on your refrigerator and look at it every day. Cross off once you have made those three new strategies a habit and write down another one. Add other ones so that you can continue to grow and learn and to change. Now that you've recognized some of your behaviors that you need to change, my recommendation is that you set a goal on how to change them. The best way to do this is with specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound goals. So, goals, you can put this in one of three categories. When you're determining your goal, it could be a big goal, a medium goal, or a small goal. Once you've decided on it, and I'll give you some examples, then I want you to be very specific about it and write these out within your workbook. Make it specific, make sure it's measurable, make sure it's attainable. That's why it's important to choose a big goal, medium goal, or a small goal. Make it relevant to you. And then make it time bound. Put a time limit on when you want to achieve this goal. So, for example, the ultimate goal: batch cook lunches for a week, store in the refrigerator to take to work daily, or maybe even just make extra dinner servings to pack for lunch the next day. That's a big goal, and it certainly can be attainable, but make sure that you write out all of the SMART goal pieces so that you can get from point A to point B. Maybe it's, instead of being the big ultimate goal, maybe it's just a desirable goal at this point. So prepare lunch the night before to take to work maybe 3 times a week. Or you can even start with the minimal goal. So this could be select a healthy lunch from the food court at work instead of just eating quickly the protein bar that you've been doing. But pick a goal, small, medium, large, and fill out your worksheet on all the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound pieces of that goal. Lastly, if you want to work more with us or if you want other resources besides this course, check out a lot of our services that we have. We do a meal planning subscription, and we can give you a specific meal plan for your type. And by that, I mean we have a diabetic meal plan, we have an anti inflammatory meal plan, we have the 28-day reset meal plan, which you'll have access to at the end of this program. We have many different meal plans, and we'll walk through how you access that as a feature and as a service in one of the next lessons. We also do specific detoxification programs where we walk through. We first do either a DNA analysis or maybe a hair and saliva scan on the patient to determine where they are at in health. And then we work them through cleansing their system and set them on a maintenance program. We also do weight loss programs. We do online consults, nutritional consults. We have our free Healthy app that you're welcome to utilize. Check out our YouTube channel with a ton of great information and videos on there. We have many other lifestyle courses on the Healthy Initiative, ebooks for you, and we can provide you with a discount on physician grade supplements. Many, many resources. How you find those resources, get in touch with us either through our website, email us, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Reach out. We do have some answers and we love to help. Be sure, if you're on our YouTube channel, to like and subscribe. And thank you immensely for joining me in this course. I hope that you found it beneficial. I hope you're able to implement many of the different tools that we gave you. And be sure to access all of the free resources that we have coming up next. Thank you.